everyone, welcome to Learning Literature with Purba. In today's video, we are going to discuss Shakespeare's shortest tragedy, Macbeth. At first, we are going to take a look at the important characters of the play. Then we will discuss the detailed act-by-act summary of the play. So if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, then do subscribe to it and hit the bell icon so that you never miss an update. Now the complete name of the play is The Tragedy of Macbeth. It was first performed in 1606. The source of the play was Raphael Holinshed's Chronicles. Now James I was the ruler of England when Macbeth was performed. So Shakespeare's playing company, Lord Chamberlain's men, came to be known as King's Men during the reign of King James I, because King James I was the patron of Shakespeare's playing company, King's Men. Now everyone believes that Macbeth is the play that shows Shakespeare's close relationship with King James I. Now Macbeth was a cursed play. Taking the name of the play resulted in accidents and problems. So people started calling it the Scottish play. Now before we discuss the act-by-act summary of Macbeth, let's take a look at the important characters of the play. Number 1. So at first we have Macbeth, a Scottish general in the army of King Duncan. At first, he is the Thane of Glamis. Then he becomes the Thane of Cawdor, and finally the King of Scotland. Then we have Lady Macbeth, the wife of Macbeth and later the Queen of Scotland. Then we have Duncan, the present King of Scotland. Next we have Malcolm, the elder son of King Duncan. Then we have Donalbain, another son of King Duncan. Next we have Banquo, Macbeth's friend, a Scottish general in the army of King Duncan. Fleance, Banquo's son. Macduff, Thane of Fife. 3 witches. They signify darkness, chaos and conflict. Next we have Hecate, Queen of the Witches. Then we have Ross, a Scottish general, Angus, another Scottish general in the army of King Duncan. So these are the important characters of the play. So now that we know about them, we can look at the act-wise summary of Macbeth. Act 1. The play begins with 3 weird-looking old women, the 3 witches, talking to each other in the thunderstorm. The 3 witches decide to meet Macbeth after the battle. On the other hand, King Duncan is very happy that the Scottish generals Macbeth and Banquo have defeated all the enemies of Scotland. In his happiness, King Duncan decides to give the title of Thane of Cawdor to Macbeth. In the heath near the battlefield, the 3 witches appear. Macbeth and Banquo are horrified at the sight of the witches. Banquo asks them if they are mortal because they don't look like normal people. Banquo even wonders if they are women because the witches have beards like men. The witches call Macbeth Thane of Glamis and Thane of Cawdor. Macbeth is surprised at the second title because he had not yet received the news that King Duncan has decided to make him the Thane of Cawdor. The witches also tell Macbeth that one day he will become the King of Scotland. Then the witches turn their attention to Banquo and tell him that although he will never become the King of Scotland, his children and descendants will be the future kings of Scotland. Then the witches vanish from the battlefield. The two Scottish generals, Ross and Angus, arrive to the scene and tell Macbeth that King Duncan has decided to make him the Thane of Cawdor. Now Macbeth is surprised how the first prophecy of the witches has come true. He wonders if there is any probability of becoming the future king of Scotland. He asks his friend Banquo whether he thinks that his children will be the future kings of Scotland. Banquo tells that the devil often tells half-truths to harm people. When Macbeth reaches the court of Scotland, King Duncan praises him for his bravery. Then King Duncan announces that his son Malcolm will become the future king of Scotland. King Duncan tells Macbeth that he will visit his castle in the evening for dinner. Now, when Macbeth's wife, Lady Macbeth, learns about the prophecy of the witches, she decides to convince her husband to do anything that is required to become the King of Scotland. She plots with her husband to kill King Duncan at night. When Macbeth refuses to kill King Duncan, Lady Macbeth calls him a coward. She shares the plan. After King Duncan sleeps, she will make the servants drunk so that when they are sleeping, she and Macbeth can slip in and murder the king. Then they will smear the blood of the king on the servants so that it looks that the servants of King Duncan have murdered him. Macbeth loves her brilliant plan and agrees to kill King Duncan. Act II. Macbeth kills King Duncan. He is extremely nervous. His hands are covered in blood. Lady Macbeth tries to calm down Macbeth but gets angry when she notices that Macbeth has not left the daggers with the sleeping servants, whom they wanted to frame for King Duncan's murder. Lady Macbeth angrily takes the dagger from Macbeth and walks into the room to keep it with the sleeping servants. Both Macbeth and Lady Macbeth's hands are covered in blood that they try to wash off with water. Later, Macbeth meets Macduff, who came to his castle to meet King Duncan. Macduff discovers King Duncan's dead body. Everyone believes that the servants have killed King Duncan. Macbeth says that in anger he has killed all the servants. Now Macduff is suspicious of King Duncan's death and the death of all the servants, whereas King Duncan's sons Malcolm and Donalbain run away from Scotland because they feel that their lives are under threat. Now, as there is no heir, Macbeth becomes the new king of Scotland. Act III. When Macbeth becomes the new king of Scotland, Banquo thinks about the prophecies of the three witches. The witches said that Macbeth will become the king of Scotland, whereas Banquo's children and descendants will become the future kings of Scotland. So Banquo understands that if the first prediction can come true, the second can also come true. Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, the new King and Queen of Scotland, invite Banquo to attend a feast in the evening. Macbeth is also thinking about the prophecies of the witches. He thinks that if Banquo's children will ultimately become the King of Scotland, there is no point in being the king. So Macbeth arranges murderers to kill Banquo and his son Fleance. Banquo gets killed, but his son Fleance escapes. Later, when Macbeth goes to attend the feast, he is horrified to see Banquo's ghost sitting in the chair. Macbeth starts talking to the ghost of Banquo, who is invisible to the rest of the people present there. Lady Macbeth makes excuses and tells everyone that Macbeth sometimes have occasional visions. Macbeth is going on talking to Banquo's ghost. So Lady Macbeth tells everyone to excuse her husband's absurd behavior. Later, Macbeth decides to visit the three witches to know more about his future. On the other hand, in the heath, the three witches meet Hecate, the queen of the witches, who scold them for interfering in Macbeth's life. Later, Hecate tells the witches that when Macbeth comes to them the next day, they should give him a false sense of security. Act 4. Macbeth goes to meet the three witches. At first, the witches tell him to stay away from Macduff, to be careful of Macduff. Then the witches tell him that no man born of a woman can ever kill Macbeth. Finally, the witches tell him that he is safe until Birnam Wood, which is a forest, comes to Dunsinane Hill, where Macbeth's castle is located. So Macbeth feels relieved that he is safe, but he decides to kill Macduff. When Macbeth learns that Macduff has run away to England, he sends murderers to kill Macduff's wife and children. On the other hand, Macduff has joined forces with Malcolm, King Duncan's son. Together, they arrange an army of 10,000 soldiers against Macbeth. Both of them, both Macduff and Malcolm, want to defeat Macbeth. Act 5. In Macbeth's castle at Dunsinane, a doctor discusses Lady Macbeth's strange habit of sleepwalking. Lady Macbeth enters the room in a trance-like state with a candle in her hand. She can see blood on her hands that water cannot wash off. Slowly, Lady Macbeth is seeping into madness due to her guilt. Later, Lady Macbeth kills herself before the battle begins. On the other hand, Malcolm tells the soldiers to cut down a tree of the Birnam forest and carry it in front of them as they march towards Dunsinane Castle. A messenger comes to Macbeth and tells him that the trees of Birnam Wood are walking towards Dunsinane. Macbeth is terrified as he recalls the prophecy of the witches who told him that he is safe until Birnam Wood walks to Dunsinane. The battle begins. Macbeth meets Macduff in the battlefield. When Macbeth tells Macduff that no man born of a woman can kill him, Macduff tells him that he was untimely ripped out of his mother's womb. It means that Macduff did not have a normal birth from the birth canal. He was born through C-section. Now Macbeth is terrified and fears for his life, but he refuses to surrender. Macduff beheads Macbeth, and Malcolm becomes the new king of Scotland. So, as you know, the witches also predicted that Banquo's descendants will become the future kings of Scotland. Although it does not happen in the play, it definitely happens later in history. In fact, King James I, who was the king of both England and Scotland during that time, is known to be a descendant of Banquo. So that's it for today's video. I hope you found it helpful. If you found the video helpful, then do like it and share with your friends. I'll be back soon with a new video. Till then, stay tuned to Learning Literature with Purba, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and also stay connected on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you for watching.